So what happens when a game's most popular character is also their worst? Well, if you look at Guilty Gear Strive, it's arguable that that question is currently being answered. In this video, I wanted to talk about one of consistently the most underpowered characters in Guilty Gear Strive. Talk about their history throughout the game, as well as in previous Guilty Gear titles, and perhaps answer the question, what makes the character so popular? And what makes them such an underwhelming entry in Guilty Gear Strive. We're going to talk about the child of light and darkness herself, Queen Dizzy. Before I get too far in the video, I just wanted to say that obviously this is a subjective opinion. I wouldn't really say that calling Dizzy the worst character in Strive is a hot take. She's pretty consistently ranked low in tier lists and tournament wins, and while other characters may have been worse at points in the game's lifetime, they've also had their moments where they've been much better than Dizzy in the meta. If you disagree with Dizzy being the worst character in Guilty Gear Strive, let me know down in the comments who you think should take that title. And if you liked this video or found it entertaining, please give it a like and give this channel a subscribe, it really helps out. I've been making more and more content in the recent weeks surrounding Guilty Gear Strive, and with Strive 2.0 coming out in the near future, I have tons of new videos coming out that you definitely don't want to miss. Now, back to the video. To understand why Dizzy feels so bad in Strive, you have to understand who she used to be. Dizzy debuted as the hidden boss of Guilty Gear X. She was literally the child of light and darkness. A half-gear with two sentient wings, Necro and Undyne. In Guilty Gear X and Accent Core Plus R, Dizzy was a monster of complexity. She was the quintessential set play character. She had double air dashes, she had projectiles that covered every possible angle. In the older games, Dizzy didn't just fight you, she built a bullet hell around you. If you guessed wrong against her Oki, you weren't just losing health, you were losing the right to move your character for the next 10 seconds. Even in Guilty Gear Xrd, while she was toned down, she remained a top tier threat. She was a glass cannon, sure, but the cannon part was so huge it didn't really matter. She was a specialist's dream. Then came Guilty Gear Strive. Arc System Works made a conscious choice to simplify the game. Higher damage, shorter combos, and more of a focus on the neutral. This was, unfortunately, for a character like Dizzy, a death sentence. Her loss of utility was insane. In previous games, Undyne and Necro felt like they were helping you play the game. In Strive, their projectiles have massive startup, and even worse recovery. In a game where characters like Giovanna or Soul can close the distance in the blink of an eye, Dizzy trying to set up a fish or a chestnut feels like trying to fill out a tax return in the middle of a knife fight.
I gotta tell you, this is pretty terrific. Yeah.
You're punished for trying to use your own kit. Secondly, her defense. Dizzy has always been squishy, but in Strive, the gut system and the high damage ceiling mean she can die in 2 touches from guerrilla characters like Leo Whitefang. Without her old school mobility, and with her defensive options being heavily nerfed, she's a zoner that doesn't keep people away as effectively as other zoners like Axel or even Venom. Dizzy's whole game plan is based on neutral. She wants to dictate the space. But when Happy Chaos can out-zone her from full screen with a hit-scan gun, or Asuka can throw 3 times the projectiles for half the effort, why would you even play Dizzy at this point? Her damage is also death by 1,000 cuts. In a game where everyone else is hitting like a truck, Dizzy's combos are long, difficult to execute, and result in significantly less damage than a simple 5S, 2S, HS from Nago. She has to work 10 times harder for 50% of the reward. That is the definition of a worst character. It's not that she is unplayable. There's no character in Guilty Gear Strive that's really unplayable. It's just that she is fundamentally inefficient at what she's trying to accomplish. The real tragedy here is that Dizzy is one of the most beloved characters in the franchise. She won popularity polls. Fans waited years for her to join the Guilty Gear Strive roster. And in my opinion, Dizzy has one of the coolest designs in Guilty Gear. In a game filled with characters I look at and think, damn, this dude is sick, I want to play them, Dizzy has always stood out in both her character design and in-game mechanics and playstyle. When she finally dropped, the disappointment was palpable. She felt like she was designed for a version of Strive that existed 3 years ago. While characters like Johnny or Elfelt received Strivified kits that kept their soul, Dizzy felt like she had her wings clipped. Alright, so here we are in training mode. We're going to take a look at Dizzy really quickly. Dizzy in a nutshell, if you will. So before we talk about all of the negative aspects of Dizzy, let's take a look at some of her good moves that she has. Best normal move that she has is her 2D. It is really far-reaching, pretty active. It's a bit slower than other characters' 2Ds, but it is probably her best tool in neutral, especially for people trying to run up against her. 2D into a hard knockdown. Having a hard knockdown on Dizzy is kind of the aim of what you're going for, because it allows you to pop out your fish in a safe manner, which control the screen for you and generally give you access to a lot of your set play mechanics that you have. So 2D, pretty good. 5K and 2K are also pretty solid buttons. They're pretty fast. They're a lot safer and easier to hit in neutral. Oh, also you can anti-air pretty well with 5K. Dizzy's 6P might as well not exist. Compared to other characters' 6P, this thing's dog shit. Most of the time I'm just going to be anti-airing with 5K or like jumping K, like JK, or even 5P, because this hits pretty high. Alright, other moves that Dizzy has. Far Slash is kind of... Her Far Slash and Heavy Slash are kind of weird. They both kind of cover the same exact space, both kind of used as pokes in neutral. Heavy Slash can cause your opponent to be frozen afterwards, but you have to be close enough for the last hit to land. If you're just far enough away, as you can see, the last hit isn't going to land, and you have to cancel into like Slash Michael Sword. All of her other normal moves, her 2H, or 6H, are not bad, they're just not really anything to write home about. None of them really make Dizzy stand out. Now talking about Dizzy's special moves, her best special moves that she has are her fish. She has a low fish and a high fish. These are basically going to be used for your set play as well as covering your screen and for zoning. Chestnut is also pretty decent. It's good at range, and it's good close because as you can see it has a hit before the projectile comes out. Well, it's on the way up. You can see though that if your opponent is using FD or Faultless Defense, you get pushed very far away. Other special moves that Dizzy has, her Ice Pillars. You have a long range Ice Pillar, and then you have one that hits a bit closer. Hit these apply Freeze State to your opponent, which lets you run up and go into your set play as Dizzy, and also if you hold down the button, it activates an ice field, which is a really cool mechanic that I really like to play around with, but it can be a bit finicky to use, and oftentimes can even lead your opponent into advantage, depending on what character they're playing. The problem with all of Dizzy's special moves is that they're very, very slow on startup, and they have pretty high recovery as well, meaning unless you're doing it perfectly or at the exact right spacing, your opponent can oftentimes counter hit you or find ways to get past your zoning. Overall, Dizzy's just kind of a weird character. She doesn't really have anything she super excels at, but her kit is fun and interesting to use. I will say, in defense of the character, Wings of Light is pretty awesome. It might be my favorite special move in Guilty Gear Strive, as I love alternate win conditions. And Wings of Light is kinda the closest thing we have to that in Strive. It's an interesting move with a unique mechanic that forces your opponent to play differently in order to survive. And it feels great when Wings of Light activates and you absolutely melt the opponent's health bar. But unfortunately, the difficulty of getting the move off doesn't really make up for its upsides, or the rest of the character's downsides. So, after all of this, is Dizzy truly the worst? Well, as I said in the beginning of this video, there's no objective opinion on what character is the worst. But in terms of competitive viability, risk versus reward, kit synergy, and just overall disappointment from fans of the character, currently, in my opinion, yes. She's a legacy giant reduced to a footnote in the Strive era. But this is Guilty Gear. Balance patches happen often. We've seen bottom 1 characters become top 5 with a single update. Dizzy needs her speed back. She needs her projectiles to actually mean something again. Until then, she remains a cautionary tale of what happens when you try to fit a complex, old-school zoner into a modern, simplified brawler. With Guilty Gear Strive 2.0 on the horizon, Dizzy is at the top of my list for characters that I want to see changed. Dizzy truly has the potential to be one of the coolest fighting game characters of all time. It just depends on what the vision Arxis has for Queen Dizzy is. And I guess we'll find out April 9th.